This is Rabbi Yehoishophot Oliver, and I'm here with Chaim Hershkop from Coronahoax, Brooklyn. And we are today going to have a conversation about the situation over there with COVID. And we hope to hear Chaim's firsthand experience and his opinion on the latest developments. So, Shalom Chaim.
Shalom, how are you?
Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
So I've been enjoying seeing your comments on Facebook on various exchanges on various people's pages all through the months of the COVID saga, and I've been really encouraged seeing your comments, seeing someone else speaking out.
Yes, thank you.
So,
You want?
can you tell me
Go ahead.
how you felt when it was starting, and what your process was in your own experience of interpreting the events as they started and as they progressed?
Okay, so in the beginning, when we were first hearing about this, what was happening, like in China, the media here, nobody here seemed to be concerned about it. All they were concerned in the beginning was the impeachment. Politicians locally were making a joke out of it. Go enjoy, have parties and everything. The day, literally 24 hours after impeachment, all of a sudden, we're all dying. We should all be concerned for COVID-19. It's going to kill everybody. And that was already like the first, what? What happened all of a sudden? But it didn't become real until that Friday. I forgot the exact date. A little after Purim, where they like said the yeshivas and the schools and everything are closing down. And for me, I work in a school, so that meant no work on. It was a Friday. There would be no work on Monday. It took them a few days to get the kids organized with the Zoom and all that. We didn't have enough equipment at home. My phone was gone. We're in a little apartment. We had to find everybody their spaces, becoming technical support. That's where it really started to like hit home. Like, oh, this is real. Like this panic that they're pushing is real stuff. And I myself, a few days later, got sick. No wonder, when all your kids are home and you have no job, and you're all day running around dealing with technical support, and you don't know what, and all day getting negativity on your phone, bad news, and that's gonna it takes you down, and you get sick. And I had a fever for a day. And then I just felt sore. At first I thought, because I'm exercising a lot. A few days before, I did like 160 pull-ups and chin-ups. I was like, oh, okay, feeling a little sore, even though I never felt that, but I didn't suspect so much. But it was my whole body. It was like for a week. Sensitivity on top of my eyes, some diarrhea, just general weakness, which most of these things went away in 2-3 days, but then the general weakness like stayed, and that was that experience with that. But as far as like,
Were you worried?
I was only worried because of what the information of lack of information that we were getting in the beginning. All we were getting in the beginning was like panic porn. We were getting bombarded with images from China and Italy of dead bodies and chaos and all that, and people in hazmat suits. When I thought about it later, I was like, the only images we really saw from China were the same thing of people walking down the street just in hazmat suits, just spraying. There was nothing there, but the headlines are telling us what we should be seeing. So then the Levias here started, which also like made it seem like scarier than it was. I actually got yelled at even close family that when I was saying no, this is something's wrong here. This is not right. I mean, let's look at this person's age and where he came from. What was his condition? No, you don't understand. It's more than usual. I pay attention to a lot of things. I know that every year there's always a period of time where you'll open the internet and you'll see Baruch Dynamis, literally almost every day, every year. It's the same thing. And I was maintaining that that's what was happening. They were like, no, it's this, it's this. I said, maybe there's a few people that in the old age homes, we know what the governor here did. And many of the Levites that were here in Crown Heights, that's where the people came from.
Just to clarify, it's that for those who don't understand Hebrew who are viewing this, that a Levi is a funeral.
Yes. So many of those funerals were people that were current residents of old age homes. And their funerals are taking place in Crown Heights, and when that's happening every day, it gets to you. And even and then I'm going to sleep at night, and at night you start to think about these things more. Sleepless nights. It's like a snowball effect where it just keeps getting you down. And until I decided that two things, I'm going to cut the negativity out, the media. I asked my family and friends to like stop putting videos and all of bodies and these numbers and so on, of death. And then when I personally concluded that I'm doing everything that I can, I'm being healthy, fit, and whenever the day comes to clock out, it's not up to me. And that's the day I started to recover physically, spiritually, mentally, and started to live as much as possible.
Right. So so once you started to see that the official story was suspicious and you questioned it, so that's really a turning point where um, you're in a very small minority of people up against this like mass psychosis. So
Yes.
describe how that was at the beginning and how it progressed in your community.
So it's tough in the beginning, but I'll describe it as when you see a picture, can't unsee it. So the moment I saw the bigger picture and I understood that something's just not right here, there's no going back. And I just knew that I'm going to say what I know to be true. And like with every truth, eventually people are going to get it slowly. And I want to just say that the biggest people arguing with me and calling me crazy and Meshuggah and this and that, they became they became bigger advocates than I against the narrative. So it just takes time, and people have to understand. You have to be consistent and not back off and not. Oh, I want this. I just remembered. Also, one of the things that made me sense that something's just not right away was when they shut down the schools and the shuls, and people were having their porch minyan and their and all that, and then there was another segment that just had a bunch of hate towards that. There's a lot of resentment towards that. Now, although I should be, but I'm not such a minyan guy. I should be down praying 3 times a day with the minyan, with a congregation of 10, right? But I wasn't. But I didn't resent those that were doing it. But when I saw that hate, I said something's just not right here. Why would you react this way? And then you can't ignore when someone's talking a certain way against people really doing the right thing. At the end of the day, I regret stopping my then 13-year-old son from going out at the time to pray with the minyan and all that. when you check their Facebook pages and you see that what's really motivating them, and a lot of them it was politics. And of course, they had to dress it up in self-righteousness. No, we want to save lives. And also, you're a killer and you want people to die and this and that. What are you? I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have elderly parents. I work in the community. I'm a volunteer in the community. To see these things, just these names and viciousness just being thrown around so easily tells you right away something's not right here. This is not pure. This is not holy. This is not right. This is not just.
Yeah. So, please share how you viewed the claim that medical experts um, have said these measures are necessary, and especially the medical experts, so-called, in your community.
So I actually, when I said, when you asked me initially, like how I felt in the beginning, and I said that, there was a lot of unknown. It really was that. It felt like the first 3 weeks that there was no information. Like the doctors seemed like they were MIA, missing in action. And I can't blame them. Some say some of them were sick themselves. They didn't know either what was going on. But we were home alone, most of us, hundreds and thousands of us were home going through this. And by the way, I only found out about a lot of the symptoms from other people saying, oh, I was sick and this is what I felt. And I was like, oh, so that's normal, that's normal, that's normal. Had I known that a lot of those things were normal, I would have felt much better. I wouldn't have thought that I'm dying. Okay, this is the symptoms. But we didn't even have any information. We're just, whatever the media was giving us, that's what we had. And
You're saying that
so I felt like,
you're saying that a lot of the uh, difficulty was exacerbated by the fear and the unknown.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, so, um, so let's move on with the event. Um, then there started to be reopening, and now we're at the stage where the issue is to what extent can we have a minyan indoors, a prayer gathering indoors, and also, of course, the issue of the mask. So, how did you experience that?
So it's when they first said that we're closing the schools and the shuls, at first it was 14 days, and it was another 14 days or 30 days. I stayed at home. I davened at home. I prayed at home. It was over Pesach too. But closer to Shavuot, that's when I think most people just by themselves just started to open up their shuls again. The truth is, we should have done it right away after Passover, after Pesach. All the deaths stopped. That was also like, for me, it was like, wait a minute, what happened that all of a sudden it stopped? So you know what I mean? It wasn't like there was some magic drug or some vaccine, or they came with some big discovery in the hospitals. And the answer simply was that they stopped sending doctors, and Tzala, the emergency medical service here, stopped sending people to the hospitals. And they started to show people at home how to go through this process. And again, and like I said before, information, knowing what to expect and what to do already helps. Sometimes from my own experience, when I wasn't feeling well, I thought I had some ache or something going on, just going to visit the doctor and then telling me that it's all good, everything's okay, walking out of the doctor's office, you already feel better. Because a lot of times it's in your head. So then I asked myself, I said, wait a minute, why did it all of a sudden, just like that? It just stopped. So something happened, and it wasn't some medical a miracle or something. They just simply stopped sending people to the hospital, and the deaths stopped. So I
So,
was already advocating on my WhatsApp and everything. Okay, time to send the kids back to school. Let's open up fully. Let's go on in life. And this is a scam, a scam. Again, slowly, as the weeks go by, all these people are like, oh, tell us more, tell us more. And they're already posting on their WhatsApp. So when it came to Shavuot already, people were already like, we're doing this. There was no rabbinical guidance. Nobody listened to the rabbis when they said not to have porch minions and so on and so forth. So now it was like, we're opening up. Whoever, and if anybody protests, if you don't want to, stay home. Nobody's forcing you. And at first it was just like davening was smaller, and then it just got bigger, and then the kedushim started, and the simchas started, the bar mitzvahs and the weddings, and close to the end of school, I was a little disappointed that they took so long to open the schools. They opened it 2 weeks before school was over. I think they did that just so the parents shouldn't complain about the 5 months tuition that they just paid for basically nothing. So they wanted to like go out with a good taste. And then in the day camps, they without any mercy, like they charge, like when years past they would give discounts. This time they were like, you could pay in full or stay home. Like there was no like, hey, we're opening up, we got to make up for lost time, we got to help out the people, we got to help out the community. A lot of households were lost a lot of income. Well, we nothing. There was nothing. They weren't there for us. Not the schools, not the rabbis. All rabbis were doing were trying to make us comfortable with our misery. Nobody was giving guidance. Nobody swam against the narrative to say, okay, let's open up the schools. Let's open up the shuls. Let's make sure that every single child has a camp somewhere to spend the summer. They didn't do it then, and now with the situation with the waivers that they want kids to sign, there are kids in various schools here that are that are currently home for the last 2 weeks because they didn't comply. They didn't give in.
we'll get to that. So just want to touch on a point you just mentioned, which is very important. You started to realize that the reason for the sudden drop in death was that they weren't sending people, Hatzolah wasn't sending people to the hospital. Hatzolah is the Jewish ambulance organization for the community. So, so in other words, you realize that people are being killed in the hospitals. That's a major realization to realize that it's not COVID killing people, it's the hospitals and the protocols killing people.
Yes, 100%. I have a friend I went to celebrate last Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night. We had a Melava Malka, and one person who went through a terrible experience that survived, he threw the party. He says also it was a terrible experience. And he says the first thing they rolled him into the hospital. Doctor came over to him, didn't even ask his name, didn't even look at a chart, didn't look at anything. He just came over to him, handed him a pad, and said, "Would you sign a do not resuscitate form?" And he could hardly talk or breathe. He told him like an explicit word. I have 5 children at home. I want to go home to my children. Like, you get me home. Like, but that's it they wanted, and then they put you in a room and the doctor comes to see you once a day, and there was issues with food and drink, and even to go to the bathroom, the connection to the oxygen was like a foot or two long. You had to either disconnect it. It was total disaster. Another friend that came by said that his father, 60 years old, was 90% gone, almost dead. That's it. They were saying he was already looking for a plot, and he did everything he can to pull his father out of the hospital, and by miracles he succeeded, and today his father's alive and well. They brought a person who was 90% dead home, and they brought him back to life.
Yeah.
And
So, so
so
that's just an incredible point to constantly hammer home whenever you're speaking to people that if all these people died because of um, the mistreatment, the malpractice in the hospitals, well, that means they didn't die because of COVID in the hospitals. Everyone is saying that the the deaths in New York prove that COVID is a real um, pandemic, epidemic. Well, no, in fact, it proves the opposite because specifically because of all these stories coming out of malpractice in the hospitals that this happened. But as you just said, when the people were able to stay home, then suddenly COVID went away.
yeah, it's actually a little sad that many Jewish communities use like what was happening in Brooklyn as an excuse, I guess,
Oh,
or a
oh,
justification
everyone.
to shut down
Yeah,
everybody. Right?
yeah,
Oh, the people that died in Crown Heights. Oh
yeah,
my God, don't you remember the Levias
yeah.
and all that? They try to get you all emotional. Oh, you don't care. You don't this. And actually, when we were sitting there Saturday night, and they were telling their story, my older brother was there too. He's like, "Why don't you guys like write this stuff? Why aren't people coming out?" And they were like, "Who's gonna listen? Who's that?" We're like, "We're listening." And I said, "It's gonna take time, slowly, slowly. Another family, and other people are gonna come out eventually out of the shadows, and we're gonna hear everything out in the open, what went on." Um,
Well, people there
in the
was already
hospitals.
the people who were paying attention. There were already people speaking out. Mr. Abashkin spoke out,
Right.
and someone else. There were a few people saying, and also it was known that in particular Maimonides, um, is the suspect of malpractice in general, um, and so therefore anyone with that background knowledge would have had reason to be suspicious, um, at least in that hospital. But then, for me, the big thing was when nurses came out describing their own experiences in the hospital and essentially saying that there's mass murder in the hospital. And like you said, you can't unsee that. Once you hear those testimonies, you know that this is a really big lie, and that um, everything else about it is also a lie. That if this is a lie, then everything is a lie. And
Yes.
yeah. So yeah. So okay. So let's move on. So okay. So let's talk about masks. How did you feel about masks when they started, and how people are going along with it, both in shul, in the synagogues, and then also for children.
So regarding masks, actually, we here in Crown Heights we did it before even the secular government here recommended it. They were already enforcing it. Wouldn't allow you to come to the grocery store, the supermarket without a mask. Um, and uh, and that's why actually I think that today we're getting punished for that because that we're getting hit the hardest because we were sheep. In the end of the day, oh, these people, they volunteered for these things, and we're easy targets. We basically said that, and so I tried to avoid it as much as possible. Even now, I do everything I can to avoid it. If I need milk, I need milk, and I'll do what I have to do to get milk. What am I going to do? But otherwise, I think it's terrible. During the summer, the kids were in the school building. They didn't make masks. They didn't do any of these things. It wasn't even a sign. They literally opened up the last 2 weeks of school and the summer as if nothing ever happened. All of a sudden, the new school year began. It was like with the plexiglass and the
Yeah.
mask, and parents can't come into the building, and all these ridiculous regulations. It's like, what? We just spent months from Shavuot together in shul. We went to Simchas together. We went to to school the last 2 weeks. We went to day camp, to sleepaway camp. We're on the bus. We're on everything. We're doing it. Their kids went swimming together. They did everything together. Everything's great. Nobody's getting sick. There's no hospitalization. So why are we playing this game? Why are we playing this game? Why are we telling kids to wear masks and so on and so forth? It's unbelievable. So, so the older kids, my 13, 14 is in Masifta, that's like high school. And, the kids already did what they had to do with the plexiglasses, and they all have their mask in their pocket in case someone walks in and all that. My son, I got to give him credit. He's a good student and he behaves, but he's like, no mask, no mask, no mask, period, over and that. Doesn't care who walks in, who walks out, doesn't want to hear it. He's not putting it on. He's even crazier, more extreme than I am. And I take off my hat for him. Yes. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I have nachas for him. Finished the Mishnayos, the learning, he's going through Shas, Talmud, and all that, but I'll encourage this disobedience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so now let's talk about the role of the leadership in imposing all these measures as school reopened after the break.
So basically, there was no leadership. There was nobody. That's what we realized. I realized that, hey, I'm a head of a household. I'm the nasi, the leader of my family. I got my own little tribe, and I got to lead them through the desert to the promised land. There's nobody out there. There was. None of these rabbis came out there and said, "Oh no, what's happening with the education of the children? How many young students, teenagers between 16 to 22 left the yeshiva system in the last 6 months? Even good students that were learning and they were into it, they just lost all interest now. Right now in the streets, there are many Jewish children and young adults that are not in a yeshiva system because we basically told them it just doesn't matter. It's not important enough, and you lose interest.
You're saying that you're saying that the distance learning itself destroyed these kids' motivation to learn in general.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have four children in the school system. One of them, my 14-year-old, he's self-motivated. He had a schedule every day. He did his own thing. For him, even if tomorrow his school closes down, he's like, okay, I'll just continue doing whatever I was doing before. But my 9-year-old who has a special education, he's in a school for kids that need extra help, extra assistance. For him, it was a disaster. He has a speech therapist and physical therapist and all these things. It was a joke. And then I have a kid. I have a son now in first grade. They're pre-1A, learning how to read Aleph Beis. You can't learn that on a screen. That was a joke, a disaster. But anybody old enough that has the choice, could make the choice not to go back, will not go back. Why should they?
You're saying that they feel that the administrators let them down, so they don't want to go back. Is that what you're saying?
There's no fire. There's no interest. I personally remember for myself in the summer vacations that we would have as a young teenager, 15 to 18, I almost left yeshiva twice because of the summer. You have too much free time, and you start to think about other things. It's just too much of a break. And you lose interest. If I wasn't dragged back, encouraged back, not dragged, I went besimcha, with joy. But if someone didn't take me under their wings and bring me back, you lose interest. It's just a natural course of things. I'll say the same thing with fitness. If you're on a routine and all of a sudden it just breaks up in a major way, it'll be very hard to get back into it, if at all. That's why actually that was one of the things that actually motivated me to do everything I can to do something every single day, even at home in a little apartment. I had to wait till my kids were put to bed because I was afraid to lose interest. Like if I would go for a long time, I would probably just give up and not go back into it. So I said, if I just do something every day. So once you're detached from the structure, why should you go back in? The
Okay, well,
structure didn't show that it was important for them that the students be together and in the building and so on and so forth.
I mean, you could argue that the government was the ones were the ones who was the one who shut down the school, so you can't hold any leadership to blame for that. Um,
So I mentioned before that we actually here in Crown Heights took an initiative even before the government. They decided days before the government. There was still public school like a week and a half after our yeshivas closed down. People were actually trying to blame the mayor here. Oh, what are you doing? How could you not just shut down? Look what's happening. So about that, I say that. When we decided for whatever reason, information we thought we had at the time, we were scared, we got duped, and we decided on our own, whatever, puach nefesh, at the time, to close down, okay, fine. But the moment that the government came, even if it was 3 days after we decided, for let's say, for argument's sake, it was for good reason. The moment the government said, "Oh, you're not essential anymore," like prayer and synagogue and schools, and that is not essential, we had to go out on Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, and open those schools one way or the other. Not in the school buildings, then in living rooms and in dining rooms and in basements, and just we had to make it happen. But there was absolutely no effort, nothing, zero, nada,
yeah,
and that's very disappointing.
I mean, part of that was that people in general were paralyzed by fear, and um, that it affects your judgment.
That's I believe that, sure, but that's what leadership's supposed to do. That's one of my complaints, is there was nobody to lead us out of this, to be courageous and say and ask why. There are smarter people than myself that they didn't see these things.
Right.
They didn't see, okay, it's not what they said it was. Okay, a month and a half in, we're talking about 5, 6 months. Come on, like, come on, man. Someone had to see, but everybody has their agendas, and
What,
they were just going with the flow.
the leader has to be the one who doesn't allow himself to be swayed by emotion and looks at the facts and does what's right for the people. And that,
100%.
you know,
And hopefully now, because of this situation, we hope and pray that new leaders come up and take action. I mean, there's definitely the people that were pretending to be our leaders. They're done. They're finished. They're not. Nobody's how do you say, buying their products anymore. It's finished for them.
do you think that there's been a mass sort of awakening among your community that the COVID narrative is false? You feel that?
Yes, absolutely. I see more people on the groups talking the way I was crazy 6 months ago. Today it's common. It's just like, if you're crazy, or I wouldn't say crazy. Actually, last week I started to think of it as like, Rahmanis, empathy for anybody still living in this fear and under the illusion that this thing is going to just kill everybody. And we have to start speaking about getting counseling for people. I mean, why are you living under fear? What's going on? People will say, they'll tell you, don't you see what's going on? And you ask them, where do you see this? And now really they don't see any, they're just watching their TVs at home, and they can't tell you their TV because they know that my angle is to tell them, right, exactly, your TV is telling you, but in the reality, go open your window, get out of your basement, walk into the street, go to shul, go see what's going on. You'll see people living, and life is going on.
Yeah.
That's what I see. What do you see? You're just what they're telling you to see. I don't have a TV. I have the internet, and I basically have my news sources, more, I guess, conservative leaning. Um, that's not where I got these ideas from. I find people that are thinking like me, not that they're convincing me to think this way. So what was I? Lost my train of thought. So I lost it. Anyway,
So you feel that we're discussing how there's been a widespread skepticism of the official narrative in Crown Heights, and how do you feel talking to those people who have had a complete change of heart from one extreme to another? Have any of them come to you and said, Chaim, you were right, and thank you for speaking out against the majority?
I do get a lot of messages, especially now with this group that opened up, the WhatsApp group that opened up against the schools as trying to force us to sign the waiver. I do get private messages from parents, mothers and fathers. Thank you for stepping up and saying saying things. Most people are afraid to say these things, and so they thank me for it. I was actually telling my son and my wife today that all the negative comments that people had to say about what I was saying didn't even come to me face to face. They went to, there's someone met my brother, or someone met this guy, and they only threw a third party. So I laugh. I go, I'm the nicest guy in the world. If you have something to say it. Let's discuss it. But I'm not going to chase anybody. I Baruch Hashem, get a lot of good messages and positive feedback. And that's what matters to me. I don't care about the people that have nothing positive to say, especially when they can't say it to my face. So it's not worth anything.
What I mean to say is, has anyone come to you and admitted that they were wrong? And
They don't say it like that. They just participate in the conversations. And for me, it's enough to see them starting to put it on their statuses and just on their Facebook and talking about it. That's enough. I don't need it. I'm not looking for any apologies. Just be a mentioned and spread the truth.
yeah, so let's talk about the most recent issue, which is the masks in general on kids, and especially the testing. So what's going to happen?
I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, so far there's been like this silence for the last week and a half. So I don't know what their game is, but we gotta, how do you say, sleep with both our eyes open. We can't underestimate. I'm sure they're planning and scheming and trying to get what they want. So we're gonna have to be up and awake.
Okay, but start from the beginning. Tell us about how events unfolded.
Oh, so thankfully, like I mentioned before, we've spent months together in synagogue and in schools and in camps and weddings and bar mitzvahs and singing and dancing. We just went through the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah. We're all dancing together. It's been 2 weeks since Simchat Torah, even more. And thank God there's no cases, there's no illness, nobody's getting sick, nobody's being hospitalized. So this was for months already. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks ago, the school surprisingly send us emails like, you have to sign this waiver that your kids, that a third party could come to school every 10 days to 2 weeks. They'll get tested. If you don't sign this, your child cannot return to school. And then it said there like we had meetings with Askanim. Those are advocates, community advocates, and we reviewed studies. And
can trust them.
yeah, like trust us. As someone with as an adult, as a father and a husband, and somebody that lived through a little of life, I felt it was like talking to children, like literally, like not going to give us a little more. Like you met with nameless people, and you viewed studies. So I actually one of the people that I suspected right away was the initiator, because like I said, when you see a bigger picture, when you see in life, when you see everything in a bigger picture, you understand that everything started somewhere. There was some genius that came up with this idea. One person, So I right away asked on my WhatsApp, who is that one person that came and said, you know what, this is what we wanted? Where did this start? Where did the first seed, to grow? You had to plant the seed. And then I figured out who it was, and I actually gave him a call. He was a classmate of mine running the whole operations there in the schools. And I didn't give him a call. I actually messaged him. And here's a lesson for everybody. Dealing with any business or any communications, someone says, call me, tell them no. Let's message, because calling, unless you're recording, which usually we're not right away ready with that, unless you tell them, oh, I'll call you in 10 minutes, and then you prepare to record. But otherwise, call me, no such a thing. Why can't we speak here, especially with the WhatsApps, this voice notes and that. Anyway, so otherwise, they'll gaslight you. They'll say you said things that you didn't say. And if it's a business and you made an arrangement for an amount, how much you're going to charge. Oh, you said this, you said that over the phone. It's argument. Let's communicate via text. There's a record, and so on and so forth. So basically, I asked him. I said, listen, friend, tell me, you wrote on this email that you met with activists. Could you tell me who were the activists and what studies did you study? I want to review those studies. So he right away said, oh, why are you accusing me of meeting? I said, you see, that's why I didn't want to call you. I wanted it to be in messages, because I never accused you of anything. Here's the message. I just sent you a message. I never accused you. I just asked you. I ended up deleting the messages before I could save it, but I know that he tried to gaslight me, and I heard he did that the same thing to everybody else. But basically, stop bothering me, that's for sure. I didn't get any more emails from the school from that point on, and I think that anybody that put his foot down, they backed off. And anybody that was, we don't know, they got arrested. That's what bullies do. Bullies come after the easy targets. The moment you show weakness, they will come after you with everything they got. So so far it seems I don't know really what's going on the groups. It's pretty quiet. Nobody's getting any messages from the schools. I hope they drop the whole idea. I have no clue.
I also heard that there was a day when all the leaders were calling for mass testing. To come to some central location and bring your kids for a mass testing. What happened?
Oh, so that was before. So they did that. They did that before they sent the emails. They thought they could maybe they'll have people voluntarily show up, but not a lot of people showed up. No. So then 3-4 days later, we got the emails like, this is what we're doing in the schools. We're not asking you. You want your kid back in school, you sign this. And a lot of people initially, not a lot, but many people signed initially, not understanding. A lot of people are sheep and naive, and they don't know. But once more information came out, there were a lot of questions like, how could we rescind this? How could we take it back? And so on and so forth. That's where Rabbi Yitzchak David Smith got involved in helping out, and so on and so forth. So far it's been quiet for a while. Kids are still going to school. But this actually just opened the eyes to a larger problem. They sent home kids that first day, which is a big issue. How do you send home a kid? And you basically burn his neshama, his soul out. You know what I mean? So
They sent them home because the parents hadn't signed the waiver.
yes.
Wow.
They had kids call their mother and say, "Mommy, they're telling me that I can't be in school because they gave you something to sign and you didn't sign it." They had kids, little kids doing that.
Calling from the school, the
Yes.
parents. Wow.
Yes, and they took kids out of the class, and so when they called several parents, and they said we're not home with this, they just put they put the kids in a classroom with a security guard, and they couldn't leave the classroom.
Wow.
And that's that. So what this actually exposed was that there's a bigger virus here, or the real virus is not COVID-19. And this is where I go back to the beginning where I saw the hate and the contention. I realized that the virus is not COVID-19. There's something much more dangerous going on over here. So and that's what it is. It really isn't COVID-19. It's so we have to get to the root. We have to find a cure, and it's not in the form of a vaccine. You know, so
So explain what's the real virus in your feeling?
that we basically we're not caring for the education here anymore. It became we're bowing down to the idol of funding, and the school is just there for the funding. It's like we don't need the kids in the school. We need funding. And if we could get funding, then your kids could go to school. If we can't get funding, there's not going to be school. It's like funding. I mean, where does the Torah learning come in to all this? You know what I mean? It's like, is that the secondary thing? The children are the secondary thing? The funding. And then I have to ask a question. What benefit are we getting? And that we're going to give you a $200 break. No, they say you paid last year this and much, now you'll pay another $100, $300 more. You know what I mean? So what do we benefit on this funding, especially when you close down our schools because of the funding? That doesn't even make sense. Well, when are you gonna? This week's Parsha Torah portion, we're talking about Avraham Avinu, the first Jew that went on Mesirat Nefesh, self-sacrifice, to spread the word of Hashem. What does that mean to the children when you so easily close down schools? When you don't put down your foot and say, we're going to open up one way or the other. Like I said, if you can't have it in the building, have it somewhere else. Classes have to gather. We have to come together and learn Torah. But so easily to just close down? The government said that this said, well, I mean, teach the kids have to learn how to take a stand for the Yiddishkeit. I actually made a call to the parents, not a call, a phone call. I'm saying I posted, I said, this is our time, your opportunity to show your kids what Mesiras Nefesh is. Stand up for something. Yeah, I got to show them that you're standing up for something. This is it. This is the opportunity. We don't always get that opportunity. And don't miss it. If you just give in, what is Yiddishkeit? What is it? What are we fighting for? What is it? What does that mean, Avraham Avinu jumped into the fire?
Yeah.
How do we jump into the fire today?
We every year we celebrate Hanukkah and we talk about how the Maccabees and Maccabim had secret classes to study Torah, and we also speak about how in Russia the Chassidim had secret classes. If they were caught, they could have been exiled to Siberia or even executed.
And many were caught, and if they would have caught one kid and they caught the class, that was the kids didn't come home. to their parents. That was the last they saw of them, and they took that risk. They took that chance. Some people today, if this was 2020, people would be judging the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe that was operating that was running this whole operation. Oh, you're killing people, you're killing kids, you're killing teachers, you're ruining it for us. And he actually was like the only one doing these things. Everybody else gave in. All the other segments, Jewish segments, gave in to the government's demands. And he was like, no, we're not doing this. We have to save the soul of the Jewish people. But where do we have that fight today? Come on, we have this opportunity right now.
It's sad how all these stories we're so familiar with, but when it comes to putting those lessons into practice, people forget. And it's like all these stories are just, I don't know, some kind of history lesson, but not for the real purpose that we were told them, which is to put them into practice when they're relevant.
Absolutely. The famous poets, the landlord or the governor, that the kids always hear about all the time, and the Mesiras Nefesh that we have in those stories, and so on and so forth. That was the governor, the landowner was the governor, and we have numerous stories. So how does a teacher stand and tell his kids any of these stories when we're faced with this and we just we're gonna lose our funding, we can't.
People are in denial that the kind of evil and persecution that took place in the past could really, really be happening to us now. And because we've lived such a good life in these Anglo countries in the Western world, and it's hard to believe that prosperity, that freedom, is really slipping away, and people are in denial. But people need to wake up because that is the reality.
But the truth is, my grandfather, Oliver Shalom of blessed memory, that came from Europe in the war, he said that Jews then were living also he said they were living better than they were living now in America and in the world, and still that came, and in Egypt too, Mitzrayim.
You mean in pre-war Europe?
Yes. That's why a lot of people just didn't believe it.
Right.
I mean, we have people. This is one of the things I was thinking about lately, was how you see photos of people getting off the trains and the trucks. They just literally were thrown out of their houses. They saw their neighbors and friends and family members being beaten in the street. Some of them shot point blank in the head, and they're coming off the trains and the trucks with their fully dressed like you would think they were going to a wedding, with fur coats and beautiful hats and their jewelry. They took in their suitcases all their precious belongings like they were going to a resort. They showed up like that, and that's how it was. It's crazy how we just don't. It's happening, but we're just in denial. We don't want to believe it.
Yeah, we have to wake people up. So really, perhaps we could say that the real virus that's going around is cowardice and the choice to submit to fear, and the choice to not speak out, not take a stand, not resist, not use our mind and look at the facts and look at the criticism of the official narrative, and instead to just play along, conform, and obey whatever the authority figures tell us.
Absolutely. But I do see people waking up. I can't be, how do you say, can't be satisfied with that. We have to keep pushing and keep pushing because easily people will just slip back. Everybody wants to go back to normal, you know, back to sleep. Like, let me just go back to my routine. No, we can't. We have to push back. We have to be sleeping with our eyes open and be ready. We have to be ready. And that's that. And yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Chaim, for taking the time, and thank you for your courageous stand, and God bless, and we should hear good news.
Thank you, thank you. I just say about like wanting. I also want to live my life and raise my family and do, you know, drive my school bus and go to the gym and do all that. And when this whole thing happened and I knew that I like open using our imagination, open my closet, and I see my armor, my gear, and I have to dust it off, and I have to put it back on, and I have to go out there and, you know, Mila Shem Elai, and I have to, you know, but this is what we have to do, you know, and I'm not someone that's gonna sit around waiting for someone has to do something. You know what someone is? Someone is someone else other than myself. No, no, no. To do whatever I can to the best of my ability. All right.
So yep. So thanks so much, and God bless.
All right. Kol tov, Laila tov, Boker tov. Bye.